Dream Your Life Amazing, Chapter 8, Success Hacks and Observations. In this second half of the book, I want to share with you some tricks, hacks, and wisdom I have gained in my life to help you navigate your dreams and your relationships. Whiteboard. Even though I talked about dream planning and brainstorming in Chapter 1, I want to talk about a deeper concept called whiteboarding as a lifestyle. Whiteboarding is something that you do on a regular basis in business and in life. It gives you the mindset that today is a new day and that you can dream fresh every single day. Regarding relationships, you can have a whiteboarding session with your kids, your spouse, or your boss. It's very simple to take a white piece of paper and say, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be in 12 months from now, 5 years from now? The great concept of whiteboarding is that we don't measure our tomorrow by our current life or by yesterday's choices. If you make whiteboarding a regular habit in your relationships and in your personal life, you will begin to see life as a series of endless possibilities. You will see possibilities everywhere. One of the mindsets that keeps people from succeeding or doing great things is that they get caught up in doing yesterday's things. We allow ourselves to get held back by the ideas of yesterday, and we don't realize the possibilities of today. In other words, the thinking that got us here will keep us here. When we give ourselves permission, as well as challenge ourselves to continue to look at life from new eyes, we see new things. Years ago, I had a short-term consulting job with a large publishing company, and it was my job to help install and train a new printing operation. While I was there, I also interviewed the staff to see where there might be bottlenecks in the operation. The amazing thing about most companies is the people are always aware of the pain points and the problems. But because they live with it every day, they can't see past yesterday's thinking. At this company, the majority of return packages and the bottleneck in the operation came from a single station. The packages were being filled with an order sheet, then the address and order ID were copied by hand to an address label and sent off to shipping. I asked, why don't you order custom packing slips with peelable address labels? You'll reduce errors and speed up the operation. It saved the company over $150,000 in 1 year. Even though the company saved tons of time and money, I don't think my question or suggestion was a super brilliant idea. I was just outside the problem and wasn't looking at the laser printer's limitations and the forms of the past. Sometimes brilliance comes from a new version of seeing. Do you ever hear people say, the universe is conspiring to help those who believe? Send out good signals and the universe will reward them. I'm pretty sure the secret is simpler than that. Have you ever noticed that when you buy a new car, suddenly there's the same model of car everywhere and you've never noticed it before? It's just like that in life and business. Because you heard the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Again, the teacher was always there. You just didn't see the opportunity. In business, my life is full of options. I actually have to force myself not to think about the next big thing. In my youth, I always looked for the next big idea and wanted to figure out a business strategy. After starting over 45 businesses and consulting thousands of individuals, business ideas are everywhere. Have you heard the saying, you can't see the forest for the trees? We are so focused on the small things that we can't see the depth of possibilities around us. Many people can quadruple their income if they just looked at the opportunities around them. You can transform every single idea in your life. If every 30 days you take a white piece of paper and imagine the possibilities you can achieve. My wife and I make it a regular habit on every anniversary to write down our dreams and goals. We separate ourselves, take out a blank piece of paper, and write the questions. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What does this new year look like? Where do you want to be in 5 years? We get to design our life every single year. Sometimes where you want to be is where you already are, but you make that decision based on the plan of today, not based on an emotional obligation. Failure is the foundation of the win. The things that oppose us are innumerable, and the possibility of failure is inevitable. Once you come to the realization that oppositions are normal and begin to embrace them, they now become inspiration for you instead of a reason to quit or be dissuaded from running forward. One of the fastest ways to gain success is to connect with people who have forged a trail and will teach you the tricks to their success. In the early years of entrepreneurship, my first attempts at seeking mentorship were disastrous. Because I had a chip on my shoulder and was raised without a father, I had a hard time dialoguing and finding men who would invest in me. It was so bad that the first few businessmen I asked for coaching laughed at me or ignored me. So in the early days, I turned to books. Knowing the authors had invested years of study, trial, and error, and then poured their lives into those pages, I spent many years reading as much as I could until I figured out how to be the kind of person a mentor would invest his time into. Mentors and focus. Many of us get bumped off a task for different reasons. The best way to stay on track with your tasks is to have community. You know, one of the most powerful things we have as human beings is other human beings. There's something about the strength of someone who has overcome in an area. One of the principles of overcoming in your life is to hang around people who have overcome in that very same area. Someone who used to be 300 pounds and is now fit and feels good about themselves is a much better trainer and supporter. Someone who understands your situation is usually better than someone who has never struggled. It's the same way in business. If you have a consultant in business, the very best consultants are those who have failed in business, not those who have never failed. Those consultants who have failed in business are carrying something else with the power of their sword and with the power of their defeat, and still overcoming. I call it the Goliath Sword. From the moment King David in the Bible defeated the champion warrior Goliath, David carried the sword of his enemy into battle, and he used it as strength and remembered that victory to help defeat his enemies. The guy who has always had a silver spoon in his mouth, the guy who has never struggled, the guy who has never faced adversity may be smart, but he is not carrying the weight and the understanding of your troubles. It is far more valuable to have someone who has overcome in many areas. For you to overcome in your life, find other people who have done the same thing. The other great attribute of an overcomer is they are normally more emotionally invested in your success. Mistakes are magical. When you learn to love failures, your successes will come sooner and your journey will be magical. Mistakes are magical. Plant this phrase in your heart. In life, we are all destined for many shortcomings and failures. It is best to learn how to use these moments to propel you and not dissuade you. Thomas Edison was quoted as saying, "I haven't failed to create the light bulb. I've just found 1,000 ways it doesn't work." We need this mindset as we adventure through life, using our life experiences, good and bad, as a point of learning, as a moment of thrill instead of an emotional defeat. As a personal example, one of my passions and hobbies is the art of knife making. I started knife making with a few other people. As we began to produce our first blades, they came out looking as you would expect, embarrassing. I noticed the biggest difference between me and those I was learning with was my attitude compared to theirs. I laughed at the grandness of the task before me. I was humbled by my first result and knew quickly that this was going to be a process that would take me years to learn and more years to master. But one of the other guys took his blade and threw it against the wall and said, "This looks like crap. I will never be able to get this right." He was so disheartened that he became discouraged. Both of us had the exact same skill set, the exact same training, and the exact same results. The difference was I became a skilled craftsman and he quit. Win by leaving a legacy. You have probably heard it said, if you help others get what they want, you will never lack for yourself. After 30 years of teaching, training, and helping other people, I have found this experience to be true. It's never a waste of time to help others in reaching their destiny, whether it's in the beginning stages of finding their voice, fulfilling their dreams, or building a legacy. There is both an immediate and long-term reward as you build your sphere of influence by caring for others' dreams and expectations. People look to you as their guide, their coach, their counselor, or confidant. Not only is this personally rewarding, the number of opportunities through those relationships will provide more opportunities than you can possibly handle. Everyone is a salesman. If you ask the average person, they will say they hate sales, but I believe it is only because they don't understand the true definition of sales. Whether you are trying to get a date or a discount, you are selling. We have the ability to use our language, our expressions, even our tones to get what we want. It is hardwired in our DNA to express what we want. Everyone is a salesperson. Now, the thing that most individuals hate about salespeople is the feeling of manipulation, obligation, and fear. The more you sell, the more you lose trust. People don't want to feel that they are being sold on anything. Everyone is a salesperson from the moment they are born. As we grow, our sales techniques change. I'd like to walk you through the process from infancy to mature adult. As a newborn, you express desire until you are met with a bottle or a clean diaper. No one makes it through infancy without becoming a master salesperson. As an infant, sales begins with whining, and the only skill they have is noise. In the same way, young salespeople use whining, complaining, objecting, and the negativity as their sales technique. Even though it may work, it's not highly effective and not good for establishing long-term customer relations. Next is the toddler stage of sales, demand. When a 2-year-old wants something, they ask and re-ask again and again. Then comes the pestering or persistence when they are ignored. Toddlers learn at a very young age to ask the right amount of times to get what they want. This method is used by some in the media outlets. They have determined that the best techniques for sales and marketing is to be persistent with an abundance of TV commercials in order to convince the masses. At 5 years old, we begin to learn intimidation on the playground. Give me this or I won't be your friend. Trade with me or I'll punch you in the head. Many people have never grown beyond the 5-year-old mentality of sales. They use aggression, intimidation, and hard close techniques to win their income. During adolescence, we learn the art of trickery. Trickery comes in many forms, but in the sales world it's known as bait and switch. It's saying something in a way that the other person wants to hear it. They sell to a person's expectations, knowing that they will buy it, and then deliver something else. As people mature, they discover the art of manipulation. They begin to understand the psychology behind human convincing. This stage of sales includes things like the fear of loss. Buy now or it won't be here in 2 hours. Your life will be miserable if you don't buy my product. This technique in sales is a negative motivation and uses the negative character traits of human psyche to gain customers. Sales maturity, or convincing of other people, comes in 3 parts. The lowest form of the 3 is education. As young adults, we learn the art of education as a tool to yes. Many people begin successful careers in sales by becoming a master of their product. The man who knows his product or service inside and out, who can answer every single question in perfect detail, becomes effective in sharing all of the benefits. They instill confidence to their customers. The next level of sales is guiding. A person who becomes a parent, teacher, or coach begins to guide others. Those who look up to you feel as though you are a partner or a co-laborer in life. The greatest of skills you will need in the area called guiding is listening. Listening mastery becomes your primary focus. Your influence with other people depends on your listening mastery. Become someone who skillfully hears the desire of a person's heart, and you can then lead them into a successful relationship or engagement. As a mature adult, we realize our immediate goals are not as important as helping other people find theirs. We see it in the grandfather or the grandmother when their entire life becomes that of service. Helping others realize their dreams becomes a heart of service, and you do business with them or offer them your solution only if it's a best fit for them. If you will spend your life helping other people find and fulfill their dreams, you will never lack for a thing. People know when they're being handled. More and more our society is becoming aware of when they're being sold or manipulated. It's our goal in every engagement, in every relationship, to help people trust us, listen to us, and work with us. To help you grow quickly in this area of influence, continue to keep this as a primary focus as you talk to others. Ask yourself this question before and after each day's conversations until it becomes a habit. After I leave an engagement or conversation, do they want to take my call again? Did I leave them with more than I took? Emotional bank accounts. Make it your intention to always leave more behind than you're asking for. The key to being an influential person from the correct motivation is to be one who's always giving more than they receive. You will always be on the short end of every engagement when you outgive others. But your life will be filled with influence. You cannot be an individual who obligates people to pay you back. Let your service be the deposit, and let your influence be the reward.